backbone support tonight. I'd also like to welcome our committee chairs, our hub leaders, and of course, our members. For those that may not yet signed up to be a Lead-Free New Jersey member, please take a minute to become one. We are putting the link into the chat. That will also give you the opportunity to join some different committees and become involved at whatever level you're most comfortable with. For those of you requesting a stipend to compensate for your time to attend the meeting tonight, please make sure at the end of the meeting to send that request to me, Heather Sorge, at hsorge@njfuture.org, along with your home address, as the stipends are only available via mail. You have to be a first-time attendee to receive the stipend, attend the entire meeting, and participate where possible. So those are kind of the guidelines and set in place for that. So without further ado, I want to turn this over to Cassie, who has some additional instructions and some housekeeping and is going to make some additional introductions for us. Cassie?
Thank you, Heather. Tonight we are very excited to offer simultaneous Spanish language translation. Our awesome interpreters, Anna and Sarah, are interpreting for us right now. As you can see on the screen, there is a interpretation button that looks like a globe symbol. So you can click on that and select the Spanish channel to hear the audio of this meeting in Spanish. We can also respond to text in Spanish in the Zoom chat. Walter Diaz, who is a member of our Newark Community Hub, Newark Water Coalition, and Suzanne Atman, our Lead-Free New Jersey Community Liaison, can answer any questions or comments that you have in the chat in Spanish. There are a couple other features in Zoom that we will use today. We do have closed captioning enabled. Please keep your microphone muted if you're not talking, but we encourage you to put your video on. We will use polling later on, which will come up automatically on your screen when it's launched. We will also have breakout sessions later on. There will be one breakout session that will have Spanish language translation. If you would like to have access to Spanish language translation during the breakout session, please raise your hand or shoot a message in the chat so we can make sure that you are placed in the breakout session that will have interpretation. Now, let's get started with our meeting. Please take a minute to put your name and organization in the chat. Also, take a moment to follow Lead-Free New Jersey on social media and make note of our website. I am very happy to welcome the Lead-Free New Jersey Steering Committee co-chairs, Rashawn Pralo and Debbie Manns, who will be leading the meeting tonight. Speaking first is Debbie Manns.
Hey, thanks, Cassie and everyone. As you can see, it takes a village to make this meeting happen. Thanks for dropping your affiliations or your name in the chat. It's great to see you. So I want to do a quick overview of our agenda and welcome everyone again. First, we're going to have some updates regarding the collaborative, and we're going to share some important information from our hubs. These are our community hubs working in our neighborhoods to make a difference. And we have some exciting news. We're identifying a new 4th hub in South Jersey. And then we're going to have an opportunity to hear lead impact stories from our team here. And it's an opportunity for you to share your story as well, if you're comfortable doing that. And then we'll take a few minutes to share our resources, which could be a great tool or toolkit for you in your community, so you can activate in your own neighborhood. And we have a panel Discussion led by Ruth Ann Norton. She's the president and CEO of GHHI on partnerships, community efforts, and opportunities. And I think Deandra is going to put some panelist bios up there in a minute. And then we're going to break out into smaller groups using our breakout feature on Zoom. And we're going to discuss equity within our collaborative. We think this is a great time to be re-examining that, making sure that we're listening and doing everything we can do to support you. And then we'll regroup and we'll share out what we heard in the other breakout groups. So don't worry, you won't miss anything. And then finally, we'll give some final calls to actions or asks to everyone that you can use in your advocacy. So next slide, please, Cassie. We just want to remind everyone what this is again. I know some of you have been at our prior membership meetings. So we are a collaborative. It's a group of people sharing their ideas and skills in order to achieve a common goal. And our common goal here is to address the hazards of lead in paint, drinking water, and soil so that our families and our children are healthy. And we want to do this in a holistic or comprehensive way. Next slide, please, Kathy. We got here, this started as maybe some things always do with a report, a finding, a kind of a wake-up call. In 2018, one of our members from the Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, I think I just mentioned Ruth Ann, they released a report in 2018, and it had a number of causes of concern and recommendations in it. This led to a number of groups working on the issue, deciding to come together to form Lead-Free New Jersey. And within our group, we have committees looking at different pieces of the issue. And we also look at options for local and statewide changes or actions related to policies or rules or even laws. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. So we've already had tremendous success so far. Next slide, please. And we do have goals. So this relates back to, we all understand why we're coming to these meetings. We have a lot we're working on, but this is why we're here. So holistic lead remediation, equitable policy change, and community involvement. And these are the pillars or the goals of Lead-Free New Jersey and why we're all spending our time here and coming to the table to make a difference. And we're going to spend time tonight to talk about our community involvement and empowered communities, and that's going to be our focus tonight. Next slide, please. So Heather spent a lot of time on this diagram, so we want to recognize and thank her for this. But what we really want you to see is this is a visualization of all these different pieces of the collaboration coming together. And you're going to hear more about these groups. And even we'd love for you to join and some of these committees and hubs coming together. So in the middle, the core is our community involvement piece. And we access community experience and expertise through a couple different ways. We have our community hubs. These are groups working in certain municipalities. And then we have committees around water and housing. And then it builds out from there. So tonight, Rashawn and I are co-chairs of the steering committee, which is built on the community work. And then surrounding all that are the goals. So the equitable policy change, holistic lead remediation, and of course, community involvement, which is giving a big hug to everything that we're doing as the outer ring. So that is a little bit of baseline information for everyone. And now I'm going to turn it over to my fantastic co-chair, Rashawn.
Thank you so much, Debbie, and good evening, everyone. My name is Rashawn Prelo. I serve as our co-chair of Lead-Free New Jersey alongside Debbie Mans. It is a pleasure to be here with you all tonight. And if you all can see the screen here, this is our community hubs. Our Lead-Free New Jersey community hubs play an important role in keeping community members out front. What do we mean by community members out front? Essentially, we want community members to be the focus of all that we do and why we do what we do. Community hubs are local grassroots organizations that help define and advance the Lead-Free New Jersey Collaborative's yearly objectives and long-term goals. They participate in the statewide collaborative, but also convene to coordinate local efforts, strategize on solutions, educate residents, which is very key to putting the community out front, and more. Community hubs specific plans are tailored to the needs of their distinct communities in their districts. We will learn more about their local work and goals tonight and how they are building capacity in each of their areas to get the lead out of New Jersey. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Heather briefly to give thanks to one of our community hub leads who has recently transitioned.
Thank you, Rashawn. I would just want to take a moment to recognize our friend, colleague, and hub leader at Passaic County Habitat for Humanity, Unique Smith, formerly Unique Cote, who is going to be moving on to her bigger things and her next great place of work, which is yet to be determined. But I just want to thank Unique for everything that she has done as a hub lead for her work in Paterson. And we want to make sure, that she knows that she is always going to be critical to Lead-Free New Jersey, serving as an ambassador to Lead-Free New Jersey, still spreading the message. Still looking forward to working with you, Unique. Just want to give Unique too the opportunity for many of us to, have her contact information. If you feel comfortable, Unique, putting that in the chat, and there she is. So thank you, Unique. So honored to work with you and honored to continue to work with you, just waiting to see what capacity that will be in. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back to Rashawn.
Yeah, thank you, Unique, for all that you do and your continued work that you be doing to support the collaborative. Truly appreciate you. And back to the hubs. So as you all can see here, we have all three hubs displayed here on the screen, showing a little bit of what they're doing in the community. Unique is actually the person to the far left of me. If you're looking at your screen, she should be on your left as well. You see some of our community hub leads in the community and doing the great work. All three hubs have developed their own community hub advocacy plans to expand their outreach, education, and testing programs to address lead in water, paint, and soil this coming year. If you are interested in connecting with one of our hubs, please do so via the emails we will put in the chat now. And I believe Deandra just put those there. The Newark Water Coalition is led by Anthony Diaz. His email should be there as well. Or the Newark Water Coalition's email should be there. Passaic Habitat for Humanity, the contact there at this time is Steve Keyhays. And the East Trenton Collaborative led by Sherelle Snyder. We're grateful for our hubs and their work, all that they do, and recognize that they are the true experts in this work. One of those experts is here to share one of many lead impact stories, which are the root of why we do this work and why we are here tonight. Please put the Lead-Free New Jersey Community Hub website page in the chat. I think it is there. Yep, okay. And with that being said, I'm now going to intro the East Trenton Collaborative lead, Sherelle Snyder. I've had the opportunity to support Sherelle about a year and a half ago and actually meet her in person, canvass the community with her, and really kind of feel her impact in real time. But I'll let her kind of introduce herself, share her lead impact story, and talk a little bit more about what they're doing in Trenton to remove lead throughout the community.
Rashawn, thank you. Thank you. It's good to see everyone. Happy kind of to be here. I mean, I wish it was under different circumstances, but we're here and hopefully we'll get the lead out of Trenton, get the lead out of New Jersey. So I just wanted to share an impact story that was given to me by Mr. Lenny Martin. So after sitting down with Mr. Lenny Martin to hear of his lead poisoning story, it was about his son. his son was in second grade, and he had noticed that he was having problems with his spelling and his math work. This didn't seem to be a problem for him before because he always did contests with his son with spelling. His son, he thought, was clearly sharp, but when his son was in the third grade, he noticed the changes and he noticed that his reading wasn't up to par anymore. And because of this, Lenny's son was held back in school. His speech was impaired. He wasn't doing that well, and he was held back twice, once in the third grade and then again in the fourth grade. But luckily, Lenny had neighbors, and these neighbors were special education teachers. They advised him that you didn't have to let your son be left back and that there is testing that can be done. So Lenny had his son tested, and they tested for lead, and the lead levels came back elevated. So, but he was able to get help. Was unfortunately, Lenny had to find out that his son had lead poisoning. But now he understood the issues and could now take action. Lenny received help for his son, thanks to his neighbors who referred them to Mercer County School for Special Services Division in West Windsor, New Jersey. Lenny explained that his son had to learn how to read all over again, and that his reading comprehension is still a work in progress, but nonetheless, Lenny said his son graduated from Trenton High School on time and is living a well-adjusted life in his 30s with a family of his own. I just want to say that starting this work with Lead Free New Jersey, I didn't know much about lead. I didn't know the lead poisoning dangers are so severe. And I thought that maybe just in Trenton, New Jersey, it was really, really bad. But after doing this work, lead issues are a problem all across the United States in low-income Black and Brown communities. I've even noticed, I've learned that I have my own lead story. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. And now doing this work, I've come to notice that in the area in Brooklyn called Bed-Stuy, that was known as lead belt because the children coming into this hospital were having all these issues with convulsions and seizures. And this work is important, and I'm happy to have Lenny's story, and I know there's other stories out there. We're going to be sharing our stories here with Trenton community. We're going to let them come into the center. And I just want to say, if anybody else wants to share their lead stories with us, please feel free. You can contact me at ssnyder@urbanpromisetrenton.org. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your lead impact story, Sherelle. I'm truly excited to hear that Lenny's doing well and living a productive life. And listening to you, just thinking about all the cognitive, kind of consequences and health factors that lead impact, is something that really empowers me and encourages me to do the work that we're all doing here. So truly want to thank you, and folks are thanking you now in the chat as well. So if anyone wanted to take a minute or so, Heather or anyone had words to share with Sherelle, please feel free to do so before we proceed to the next slide.
I just want to thank you, Sherelle, for sharing those stories. There is an opportunity that Deanna just put in to share your lead story with us through the website. But also, if there's someone who'd like to share their lead impact story here or is willing to, you can certainly, message in the chat, and open up that opportunity to share your lead story, lead related story this evening. They're very powerful, and the big takeaway from all of this is that when we we discuss these issues in committees or in meetings, right? The takeaway or with legislators, some of our partners have those meetings. The stories are what makes the difference, right? It's not what we do as an organization, but it's why at the root of this is this work so important. And that's the health and safety of our children, of our families, living with these issues. And so these are the stories that matter. These are the voices that we need to be hearing. And that's why we want to make sure to focus on that this evening. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Rashawn, unless we have someone who would like to share.
Thank you, Heather, for those words. And again, thanks, Sherelle, for sharing, and happy to hear Lenny's son is living a productive life. But it's important to probably remember that many folks aren't able to make that adjustment who are impacted by lead. So our work is very important in what we're doing and what we're working to combat.
Jyoti, I'm sorry, Rashawn, I think maybe Jyoti has her hand raised.
Can't see. Yep, please unmute yourself, Jyoti.
I believe Deandra has her hand raised, not me, but thank you for reaching out.
Apologies, all these Zoom features, my apologies.
Yes, I just had a quick comment. I think, as Rashawn mentioned, why the work is so important. One of the important things about Lenny's stories is that he got the help he needed because his neighbors were actually special ed teachers. So they could spot some of the learning disabilities. And one thing we did find out, or I dug into after hearing Lenny's story, is what is the gap between the parents getting notified of the diagnosis and the actual teachers getting notified that the kid has been diagnosed. I think one of the things that these stories highlight is where the gaps in the policy is. And just want to highlight that we have a housing policy table and a water policy table, and no part of a lead story is non-important. I think it helps us better our work, and it helps us fill those gaps. And so every bit of information counts.
Thank you, Deandra. If no one has anything else to share, we can move on to the next slide now as we continue tonight's meeting. So here we have a call to action. If anyone is interested in joining us, if you or your organization would like to be more involved, please feel free to reach out to us. We're looking to kind of connect with an organization in Southern New Jersey who's interested in holistic lead issues. So if you may not be located physically in Southern New Jersey, but if you have an organization in mind, please feel free to share that information with us as well. This is part of our efforts to expand our reach, to also make sure that we're having community hubs in each section of the state, so that we're combating the issue of lead holistically throughout the state, right? We don't want to leave anyone out. And we do have people that are currently engaged in Southern New Jersey, but now this is just a specific call to action for a community hub that we're looking to bring on board. There is a one-time seed funding available, so we think that's key information that should be shared as you think about a Southern New Jersey community hub that you think could be perfect for our collaborative. That seed funding could be used to continue the work that they're doing, or help them expand in other ways operationally. So we just wanted to share that. However, there are criteria that we're looking for. Hub candidates should have a basic knowledge of lead, be located in a lead affected community, experience in organizing, capacity building, canvassing, and community education. So obviously we want them to be involved in the community, have had community education workshops that they've held, or any sort of community involvement and engagement that they can show proof of or have a track record with doing. Have leadership, administrative support for the project, bandwidth to ensure the project is prioritized. So understanding that we want them to be actively involved, attend meetings, be able to do the work and work with us as we, again, keep the community out front. We have more info that we can share. We'll put some info in the chat if you or an organization you know would like to submit a letter of interest. However, we would like these letters of interest to be submitted to Heather by March 24th. Next month, it's a little under a month, but hopefully we have folks reach out to Heather with those letters of interest, or you can put organization name in the chat now if you feel the need to, but we're open to all considerations, and we look forward to that, bringing on that Southern New Jersey Community Hub. All right, we're now going to pause and take a quick poll to assess the level of involvement in Lead-Free New Jersey of all of our attendees here tonight. The poll will launch with both English and Spanish text. As you can see, it should be on your screen now. And I'll read it out in English. Are you currently part of, or do you have interest in joining any Lead-Free New Jersey committees? We have the Advocacy Committee, the Housing Policy Table Committee, and the Water Advocacy Committee. Please take a few seconds to fill out the poll.
We have about 50% of participants answering the poll so far. Let's see if we can get a little more. All right, I'll share the results that we have.
Thank you for that, Cassie. Oh, we have a lot of interest in the Advocacy Committee, right?
Woo-hoo.
The plug there is that Debbie and I, we chair that. So thank you for your interest in that. And we look forward to bringing folks on. We also have a tie between the Housing Policy Table as well as the Water Advocacy Committee. So we do appreciate folks for answering the poll and expressing their interest and getting more involved with the state collaborative that we have here. And we'll also, we'll take note if anyone has indicated a new interest in the committee. Cassie will be reaching out via email. So if you have anything that you may be interested in that wasn't presented here, please feel free to drop that in the chat. And you can also sign up via the link in the chat now. So there should be a link that will be placed in the chat that will allow you to sign up for the specific committee that you express interest in. Thank you. And remember, our community is at the center of all that we do and why we do it. So we need your voices, your stories, your feedback, ideas, testimonials, anything that you have to offer. We truly are open to receiving all of your talents, your information, and just energy, right? And your passion for this work. So we truly thank you all. And with that being said, I'll turn it over to Heather now.
Great, thank you, Rashawn. And just want to clarify that you and Debbie chair the steering committee, right? And it's Yvette Jordan and Kelvin Bodie that are our advocacy chairs, right? So, you know, kind of more there when, but I'm just teasing you. But we all work together in this work, right? And we're also glad to be partners in this work, but also want to give credit where credit is due. Want to share some updates that have been going on with Lead-Free New Jersey. We've had a lot of exciting things going on. One of which is the Get the Lead Out partnership event that happened at the White House on January 27th. The Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, announced an initiative to accelerate lead service line replacement in 40 communities across the country. which New Jersey Future, you're welcome, Yvette, which New Jersey Future and some of our partners, GHHI and others are part of that initiative. So very excited about that. We also had our first meeting of the Lead-Free New Jersey Water Advocacy Committee on February 7th. If that's something that interests you, this is where we were able to take our lead and drinking water task force, which is a closed committee, and open up an ad hoc committee for community members, partners that were not involved in the task force to be able to participate and elevate their voices, their concerns, their thoughts on policy initiatives and concerns around community action and implementation to that task force. So if you're interested, you can contact Deandra Cameron to join as a member of the Water Advocacy Committee. And there was also a lead workforce development meeting with the Department of Community Affairs, also known as the DCA. That took place on February 22nd. The reason for that meeting, that was actually that meeting was chaired by Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, who chairs our housing committee. And the purpose of the meeting was to talk to the DCA about opportunities for our community organizations to become involved in training and workforce opportunities in the communities that they reside in. Many of these opportunities are not currently available due to education and experience constraints that prohibit someone maybe that's a community member from being able to join that workforce. And with the strong need that we have for work in this area, we want to make sure that we're expanding those opportunities as much as possible. So to learn more about that, I'd encourage you to reach out to Kelsey McLean, who's one of our chairs, or Stephanie Greenwood. And if someone could pop their info in the chat, I'd encourage you to join our housing committee to talk more about those issues. And with that, I want to make sure to expand, the opportunity for everyone to become involved in as much as they can with Lead-Free New Jersey. And we're now going to be, let me just make sure that I have covered everything, talking about some important opportunities to share some resources. And I think to help me in doing that, I'm going to invite Cassie, who's created had a really great idea on a way that we can do this. And what we know is that we have many resources available between our different partnerships and our communities. So what we'd like to do is take a minute to share those resources so we can get those resources to the people that need it most at the community level. So Cassie, I'm going to turn it over to you for a couple instructions on how best to do that.
Thank you. I just put a link in the chat to a Google document where we have started listing some resources of the partners involved with Lead-Free New Jersey. So we just want everyone to have this link and take a moment to familiarize yourself with some of our partners' resources and add resources from your own organization or any that you are aware of, including any events you might be having. So you can keep this link, come back to it when you have time. It'll stay up after the meeting. And we won't spend time going over it right now, more than just having it here for you to look at and make the most of. Anything else, Heather?
No, I think that that's it. Just, want to make sure that we're able to share as much as we can, right? Because there's never enough information out there. So there is some already populated information in that document that we might have had from different organizations. So don't be surprised if you're a partner and see it there. We also have our Lead-Free New Jersey website resource page, which we can also point to in the chat. Many of our materials are in Spanish as well as other languages as well. So please make sure to share them. At this point, I would like to turn it over to Ruth Ann Norton, who is the president and CEO of Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, and is going to be our moderator for tonight's panel. We will link to the panelist and moderator bios in the chat. Ruth Ann?
Very quickly before we move on, Rosa has a hand raised. I wanna-
Oh, I'm so sorry, Rosa.
No, it's okay. Thank you. And this is wonderful. I'm happy that I joined today. And some of my staff is here. I just noticed though that on the resources that you share for Community Affairs and Research Center, the name on there is not up to date. So I actually took Ina's place when she left Cork. So I don't know if that's if there's a way that we can edit this.
Of course.
And then I believe because now every county should have an organization that that covers the state of New Jersey that can do lead abatement and lead remediation. So also that might be something to look to make sure that all the contacts are up to date and things like that.
Absolutely. That is wonderful suggestion. And also, yes, we can certainly update that. I think if you should have the capability to edit the document, but if for some reason you can't, Rosa, Cassie, and or I can certainly take care of that as well. Okay. All right. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to the lovely Ruth Ann Norton.
You're very kind, and so good to see you all tonight, and just so ready for spring. But I have to say, every single time I am on with our partners at Lead Free New Jersey, and I know my colleagues Kelsey McLean and Corey Muhammad are on, and I think we all feel the same. What a dynamic and wonderful and effective group, and I just always have the pleasure to be bragging about you a lot. So I'm so glad to be joined tonight by just some rock stars here. Kelvin Body, who is the Director of Healthy Homes and Communities of the Housing Community Development Network of New Jersey. Yvette Jordan from the Newark Education Workers Caucus. Elise Pivnik for the Senior Director of Environmental Health at ISLES. And Diane Sharath, I'm going to get that wrong, Diane, I'm sorry, Policy Director for New Jersey Futures. So glad to have you all here tonight, and want to make sure we give you an opportunity to say hello and to tell us about your organization and about your role and how your work is connected to what we are trying to achieve here, which is no lead in water, no lead in housing, no lead in soil, no lead in children, right? And that we eliminate lead poisoning as a major public health threat across New Jersey and across the country. So Elise, I see you've lit up here, and why don't you kick us off tonight? And thank you for the great work you've done for many years here in New Jersey.
Can everyone hear me? Okay, I don't know. I have this thing on my screen. Okay, so hi everybody. I'm very glad to be here with Lead Free New Jersey Partners and with Ruth Ann. So just some background. I work for ISLES. We are a 41-year-old community development and environmental organization based in Trenton, but we work statewide and nationally on lead and healthy homes issues. We have a whole lot of other programs, and I welcome you to look at our website to learn more about us. But we started our lead and healthy homes work back in 2000 when we were able to do an environmental health profile of Trenton and compare data both to the region, to the state, and to international occurrences. And it was very clear immediately to us the disproportionate effect of things like asthma and lead on Trenton residents compared to suburban counterparts. So we set out immediately to address that. We saw it as a huge problem, a huge environmental problem that not many were talking about back in 1999. Ruth Ann, you know this too. So we've assessed over 4,000 homes in Trenton. We've made 500 lead safe. We have a job training center that's trained over 4,000 people in environmental jobs, and we've tested about 1,000 homes for water. So we've been doing this for a while, and we're great. We're very happy to be with this larger group here and to be working together.
We're happy to have you, and so glad to see all the other faces pop up on my screen as well. Diane, share a little bit about the work you do, and what I'd also really like to is understand your role and what really connects you to this work as well.
Sure. So everyone, I'm Diane Schroff. I'm the policy director here at New Jersey Future. It's Schroff like moth or cloth. When I was a kid, people would tease me and call it sloth. So anyways, it's a good way to remember it. So yes, I'm the policy director here at New Jersey Future. And New Jersey Future is a statewide organization that envisions healthy places for all New Jersey residents to live, work, and play, where we have safe streets and clean water. We are based in Trenton, and we work throughout the state on a variety of land use and infrastructure issues. And New Jersey Future serves as the backbone staff for the Lead-Free New Jersey Collaborative. So as the policy director, I work with Deandra Cameron, our policy manager, who staffs the Lead and Drinking Water Task Force, as well as the Water Advocacy Committee that's like an ad hoc subcommittee to that task force. In addition to working on lead and drinking water issues with Deandra, I work on a variety of water infrastructure policy issues generally, and especially lately, I've been doing a lot of work related to getting funding and financing opportunities for communities in New Jersey. So doing a lot of policy work around that. So yes, that's how New Jersey Future is connected to Lead-Free New Jersey. We serve as the backbone staff for the overall collaboration, and then also specifically staff the lead and drinking water work and do a lot of work generally around lead and drinking water.
Yeah, amazing work that has gotten White House attention, and really important work. And I think Governor Murphy is also, because of this, now setting an example for other governors on investment scale, right? Yvette, so nice of you to join us tonight, and so nice to see you. Tell us a little bit about the work at Newark Education Workers Caucus and your connection to lead.
Okay, well, so good evening, everyone. My name is Yvette Jordan, and I'm chair of Newark Education Workers Caucus, which is a social justice caucus of the union, teachers union in Newark. And my association with Lead-Free New Jersey actually started in the Newark water crisis when we were the lead, we being New Caucus, was the lead plaintiff in the federal lawsuit against the city of Newark and state of New Jersey to remediate the lead service lines in Newark. I'm sure most of you have heard about that. But what happened after that is what has ended up really as a national model, and that is Newark remediated over 22,000 lead service lines in record time. However, I think what is not really shown or spoken about is the community involvement and the community push. So that's something that I was involved with and am very proud of. So personally, when my home was really tested, I live in Newark, I own a house in Newark. We had 3 times the federal action level of lead in our home, in our water. So for me, it was extremely personal, and it is extremely personal. And while Sherelle earlier was explaining about how nationally this is a crisis, especially in the Black and Brown communities. This isn't only a crisis in those areas, urban centers, where everybody may assume the people are ignorant of what is happening, because I as an educator who has advanced degrees and makes the assumption I'm so smart, I had this happening as well. So it can happen to anybody. And that is really important for us understanding. And while, yes, we are focused on disenfranchised communities, we've got to realize that this can touch any of us. What I do with Lead Free New Jersey with my partner, Kelvin Body, who you will hear in a few moments, we co-chair the advocacy committee, which really is a body of people who come together to support what the collaborative, as Rashawn was talking about earlier, wants and needs, and raise our voices in a myriad of ways. And whether it be on a grassroots level, or maybe it is advocating to our legislators, whether it be local, state, or federal. So that is what we do.
It was fabulous. And I'm so sorry that you have that experience, but I do think people have to understand the pervasiveness of lead, right? The lead dust can blow and be in your neighbor's house as well as yours, can be in the soil, can be in the water. When you feel that personal impact, it really does take you back, I think, a great deal. And but I appreciate so much what you're doing in education as well. And you all have been through the wars over COVID, I know, trying to be an educator as well. So thank you. Kelvin, thank you for keeping us gender diverse tonight and joining all us women on the panel. Thank you for that, and welcome to the panel. You're the Director of Healthy Homes at Housing Community Development. Tell us what that means and the work you're doing and your tie to it.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to help fill the quota. No, in all seriousness, Kelvin Bodie, Director of Healthy Homes and Communities at the Housing Community Development Network of New Jersey. I will only say that was the last time I'm going to say that. That was, I think I took up most of the real estate you had for my name, title, and organization there on the slide. So as a bit of background, many of you in the call probably know, who makes up the network and what the network is, but I'd be remiss if I didn't, plug that in very quickly. We're a membership organization of about 270-ish, a little over, kind of fellow community developers, nonprofits, philanthropic bodies, small municipalities, and concerned citizens and private institutions and public as well. And our work, especially in the realm of healthy homes, is kind of twofold. It's one side of the coin is political advocacy for our members, kind of at the top level to the legislation in Trenton to make sure that the people in our network are having their voices heard for what they want their policy priorities to be. But then the opposite side of that is also kind of a resource gathering and sort of acting as a mediator for funds, best strategies, and resources that kind of come down, whether it be from a federal, state level, or philanthropic level, and divvying up to those up to our members. So that's kind of a really broad, that's kind of a very broad way of saying that, while we do political advocacy to represent the needs of our network and the smallest and largest members that make up the that body in the state, we also do try to basically promote best practices and act as assistants and kind of mediators for large grants, different forms of resources and funds that our smaller members and other members can use in their initiatives. So in addition to co-chairing the advocacy committee, as Yvette was saying a bit earlier, what I do with the network is basically kind of teeing off of some of my colleagues' work, which I'm sure many people here know, Matthew Hirsch and Arnold Cohen, who are kind of the policy gurus. And then we'll take the policy priorities that we're hearing from our members on a ground level, match those up with the best practices that we feel we can advocate for those members to essentially make the argument for why they'd be a good fit for these funds, and trying to sort of gel that all together from the kind of community development and advocacy, grand level standpoint, bringing it all together. So that was a very long-winded way of me saying what the network does, what I do within it, and how that kind of is an extension of really what we do at the network is really kind of an extension of what we're trying to do here with the Advocacy Committee as well.
I thought it was wonderful, and I think it just eliminates that for most everybody on this panel. It's partnerships upon partnerships upon partnerships and collaborations that have built, that have allowed us to get as far as we can. And now we have to take that and what's coming federally and what's ahead of us, to build an implementation success and really strengthen the laws that have gotten passed, and paying attention to that, and really listening to the lived experience and barriers that are faced. But as you think about the partnerships and the work you're doing, we all know they can be challenging, and they can be like therapy in real time, and they can be also the most powerful things. So in your varied experiences, I'd really love to hear about those challenges you face, but what do you do with them, and how do you turn that into success in how you're looking at things? Yvette, I'll start with you, and then we'll go to Diane and Elise and Kelvin.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that? I was trying to fix something I sent in the chat that.
That's okay. And our condolences on your mother passing. But you know, what are the challenges that you face within your partnerships and those that you seek to build out on your work that you're doing with LED? And how important do you see partnerships in carrying out the mission, not only if the things that we are here in commonality about, but in the mission of your own organization? How do you utilize those for good?
Yeah, excellent question. I think the challenges are great. However, they are, there's an easy fix if we want to fix it. The challenges, I think, are at times not understanding our roles and our roles as agencies. At times we want to go in and we want to help and do all we can for other areas, other hubs, other communities. And the challenge is to understand who the experts, number one, are. And the experts are the people who are actually residing in those communities. So if we have certain technical skills, I think it is incumbent upon us to really go and train those who are in those communities so that they can learn and help their own communities. Many times, and here is where the challenge comes in, many times agencies feel, well, yes, I can help you, and I'll go in and I'll help and I'll train and I'll do it for you. We don't need that. I'm talking about communities really don't need that. I think what the need is, and I often say this and people look at me as if I have like 5 heads. The goal is ideally, so hear what I'm saying. Ideally, the goal is to be out of business. And when I say that, what I mean is that our goal, if we meet our goal, that means we have achieved what it is we set out to do, and the community is thriving on their own. Now, the challenge for many people, agencies, the systemic challenge is, what about my funding? I've got to eat. And we've got to figure out how to meet that challenge and support communities at the same time. So what New Caucus does and has done since its inception is to help advocate for what communities need, not in a way of leading them, but in a way of supporting them so that they learn how to lead themselves.
Really good. Very wise. And I think that you know, the fear of funding or the fear of not getting credit gets in the way of so many partnerships all the time and gets in the way of the quality of life for families. Diane.
So yeah, there are three critical aspects to New Jersey Future's work. So we work on policy, which I get to lead up a lot of that work. We also work with communities at the local level and helping them pass local policy. But we also do a collective impact work, which is helping different stakeholders align. So for example, Lead-Free New Jersey is a collective impact project, getting a lot of different folks coming together with a specific goal of addressing lead in our communities and making them lead-free and safe. So that includes community members, it includes academic experts, it includes, you know, water system, you know, economic, different types of specialists. So, and those folks don't always get along. So I think that can be the biggest challenge of this work is everybody, all the partners are coming to the work from different perspectives, but that's also the biggest strength in my mind of partnership. And we've seen how effective it can be in impacting policy. That's how some of the laws a few years ago around lead service line replacement got passed, was by all of these folks coming together and saying, this is a priority. And, you know, centering the impact of communities as part of that work. So, yes, you know, that's kind of always my big message about partnership is that it's challenging, but it's really, really powerful when folks align their individual and organizational priorities and really take specific action together. So that's been our experience at New Jersey Future.
So Kevin, what do you see as your challenges or the keys to success in this work?
So from our perspective, kind of being a network organization, it's really making sure that with us having as many network members as we do across the state of varying kind of shapes and sizes, it's making sure that while we're coming up with an effective, you know, vehicle, whether it be a program model or funding to solve the issue, we don't want to do it in a patronizing way. We want, kind of as Yvette was alluding to earlier, if these, you know, areas or these regions or organizations don't have necessarily the training yet or the capacity, we kind of want to see those put in place to where they then can be their own authorities on the issue within their own backyards. Because, you know, at least from our perspective as a political advocacy network and a community development network with our members, there is a bit of a stale air to the narrative of especially community members who are aware of this issue and how long it's been going on before my time at the network and admittedly before my time on the planet. And so, you know, to kind of keep that patronizing narrative of where, you know, don't worry, kind of sit down and shut up and we'll figure this out and solve it for you, it's really not going to fly much longer. And at least from our perspective, having the amount of members we do of all the shapes and sizes, we wouldn't be, you know, true to our name and true to our mission if we weren't trying to, at the very least, empower those smaller members to handle those issues within their own regions.
Yeah, sorry, I've got a gnat in my office, so I'm not just being crazy here. Or maybe I am, but they still have a gnat in my office. But I think what I've heard, at least as I come to you and thank you, is a couple of things, right? How do you keep this urgent in all of this work a little bit without everybody who's been around for a long time thinking they have the answers when new people come in with new energy, new ideas, and new ways to do it? But Kelvin, you raised something interesting, which is the capacity of when you have a diverse partnership, varying levels of capacity in that subject area, in that partnership coming to the table together. And how do you bring that together? So Lisa's, you know, I know you and I have been doing this work for longer than any of these folks have been alive probably, but to Kelvin's point. But how do you approach partnerships and address the challenges of partnerships, especially as a big organization coming in, right, into partnership?
Yeah.
How do you bring Isles into a partnership and successfully?
Well, we've been around for over 40 years. We have partnered with just about every organization in Trenton and probably in the state and even sometimes nationally. So we are used to that. And I have to say, one of the best examples of partnership on lead is after the news of Flint broke, we came together. The network was a key player, Isles and others, and we held a press conference at the state. And we had done a lot of research. We had real good data, et cetera. And I like to think that press event, us coming together, caused or certainly encouraged Governor Christie to announce 3 major policy changes after that conference. So, it's all about, I think, we can be in our agencies and as you all say, you don't want to be top down. It's the challenge is how do you develop the demand system that's bigger than the agencies? And that's getting people from the community involved. And there were community members involved in that press conference, the agencies, the nonprofits, et cetera. And that was very powerful.
So I'm gonna move us along. I love hearing you talk, and I've got to do my job as moderator, so I'm going to tighten down a little bit so we make sure that we have time for the audience. How do you see the role of grassroots? We've talked a little bit here about lived experience and listening to the experts, which are people living this, experiencing it, right? But what is the role of grassroots organizations for each of you? And Kelvin, we're going to start with you this time in how you advance and kind of tight answers for everybody.
Sure. So in my mind, we do have well-established players in the state that are very good at what they're doing. But we kind of speaking back to that earlier narrative issue of if we don't have fresh young faces who are from the communities themselves, kind of charging the issue forward, we're kind of running the risk of circling back into that territory of being patronizing that I was kind of speaking to earlier, where, this is an issue that it does seem, at least, this is anecdotally from my perspective being involved in this, it's a lot of older generations still kind of having the big policy level, big, kind of moving decisions at the top. Whereas, and that's well and good, and that does catch around here, and I'll tighten this up and just finish it up. But we do kind of run issues into translating that energy into the community level where, generation after generation has grown up kind of not seeing too many tangible metrics move forward, at least on the grand scale. And I think if we're going to have this discussion in good faith, especially on a smaller kind of, regional level, we need to have grassroots people being the face of it and the ones showing up, doing the remediation, doing the abatement, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And understanding that we're not going to normalize this anymore, right? In a way. So Yvette?
Yeah, I would just underscore what Kelvin was saying about how the grassroots community and the CBOs who are on the ground, really on the ground, the grassroots have to sort of lead the way or rise up and say what their needs are. And that's where we've got to really listen. And those listening skills mean we're not leading, we're working with you and we're walking with you and not ahead and having you follow us. So that's where I see it's really critical.
That's great. Elise, I'm going to actually shift a little bit to you and Diane and combine this question with another question and then go back to Kelvin and Yvette on this. But how are you viewing grassroots organizations? And how are you also in that work centering equity?
I can go. Well, Isles was founded as a grassroots organization. The founder has lived in Trenton for over 40 years, and we have a mix of, residents on our board as well as some, regional people. And we are local organizing is the cornerstone of everything we do. We understand that you need the demand system from the community to accomplish things. It's not enough for the agency heads, et cetera, to just go and talk to each other. So it's an ongoing challenge. And I think everyone here must feel that in their work is people don't have time, and how do you get people interested? And so it's an ongoing challenge, but it's the most important one. And in terms of the equity question, it's a cornerstone for me. And the whole reason I became passionate and got involved in this work in the first place is that every child should start and go through life without being lead and burdened. without being lead burdened. And they need an equal start in life. And it's just perfectly clear. And that's really a cornerstone of all of ISLE's work.
Yep. Well, thank you. And I think we can all agree on that, Diane. And then Kelvin, I'm going to ask you and Yvette really how you center equity in the work and what it really looks like and means, right, Diane? The kind of grassroots and equity, and then we'll move.
Sure. Yeah, so I'd say there are two ways that we really center grassroots organizations in our work. One is on the policy realm. It's easy to think of policy in the abstract sometimes without thinking about the impact on people. And so our grassroots partners really voice those issues and concerns and can often do it more effectively than we can as a wonky sometimes policy organization. And that also goes to policy implementation. We wouldn't be as effective. Well, the collective we wouldn't be as effective without grassroots organizations. So one example is around lead service line replacement, that even though programs in the state may be free for residents to get their lead service line replaced, they're not necessarily mandatory. And so folks have to sign up, and it requires a lot of engagement, such as knocking on doors from trusted leaders and communities. And that's work that our grassroots partners are really doing well. So we've been really working to center equity in the way that we think about our relationships and who our partners are, and also making sure that our partners have funding to support their time and effort. And that's really important. So I think I'll just leave it there. I know we're running low on time.
There's so many pathways, right, to get to the heart of changing from disparities to equity. And Kelvin?
Yeah, for me, and this is, more so perspective I take on it, which is it's going to start with local capacity building, especially in terms of funding and things of that nature. Because, in many cases, the will for the organizations, especially on a smaller level, to tackle these issues is there, but the staffing capacity or the finances to fund that position might not be there. And kind of speaking to Diane's earlier point, in many cases, the local body knows their own kind of elements or situations better than them. A throwaway example is a lot of neighborhoods actually have free kind of programs through their technical institutes that if capacity was just built up for the CDCs in the area, that would be a marketable position for people leaving those programs. But that's a conversation that would turn into its own kind of panel, I think.
It's so important though to think about in this equity framework that one is money and how do we fund, but it is building that knowledge capacity that we robbed people from for years, as well as money, right? We really kept people away from the skill building and the knowledge building. And so all of this goes so deep into that. Yvette, I'm going to ask you this question of how you're looking and centering equity. And then I would ask for like a 10-second round. I'm going to ask for your greatest lesson of success that you'd like to share. But I'd really love to hear from you on the equity question first.
Okay, I think the equity question really centers, as other people have mentioned, around capacity building. And that encompasses so much. It's not only about money, it's not only about training, it's about everything. And when you can balance those, then you feel you are equal and there is some equity going on. But when you feel as if there's I don't want to say a monolith, but when you feel less than, and this is in anything, you don't feel as if you can engage in the same way as another organization. And that's the challenge for so many grassroots groups. They don't feel they can engage, whether it be in a meeting such as this, whether it be in a meeting with an agency head or agency officials, you just don't feel you have the knowledge or the funding to say, you know, I don't need you, I'll go here, because you do need them. And therefore you don't feel as if you're equal. And so that's what we've got to focus on, and having everybody understand that is the challenge.
Right.
Now,
So, yeah.
what's your other question, Ruth Ann?
Well, I was just wanted to comment to say so many people have jobs, right, to do this work. And the reason we have jobs is because people are suffering and it's their, they are the authority, and we need to give them the authority on that. And I could talk with you on that for ages. And I think the tide is finally meeting us at the shore,
Yes.
the Jersey Shore, to help us to really understand this. So quick closeout on some early success in the short term that has informed your work that you would like to share as both inspiration and a call to action for others. So Diane, let's go to you, and then Elise, then Kelvin, and back to you, Beth.
I think I'll just reiterate what I said earlier, which is, you know, when collaboration works well and when we're working with our grassroots and, you know, all of our partners together, and aligning and taking specific action, that change can be really powerful. So, and that's, I think, why we're all here today, because we see the potential for that.
Impact, right?
Yep.
Elise?
Well, I think one of the early things for us was convincing the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation to fund our environmental health profile. They had no idea about these issues. It was kind of like, what are you talking about? And having good data helped us tell the story along with community members to continue to develop our program. But it's important to have really good information and data to make your arguments.
And I think Elise gave me my example for free earlier, which was when basically the entire network, along with the partners like ISLES and other organizations, successfully lobbied to, at the time, get the blood level, what was considered a crisis level by the state, was higher than the federal level. Words can get hard after 6 o'clock, I apologize. But that just speaks to the example, without kind of repeating the points Elise made, that, you know, the network can be advocacy gurus at the top level, but we can only, you know, push that boulder so much up the hill without the, you know, the backing of our local constituency, our clients, and the communities that they serve. And one of the most successful pieces of that event was actually a press event where mothers came in with their children, you know, with officials, and actually kind of gave faces and, you know, names, and put a human element to the issue. And we couldn't have done that just from you know, being in a city on a hill or an island up on a hill. And so it's all, like you were saying, it's partnerships within partnerships, and it's all connected. And,
Yeah, but we can
nothing's-
never replace the actual human interaction of stories. A case study doesn't do it. None of it. Yvette?
I'm thinking back to the Newark water crisis, where several organizations and community members, we came together. And while New Caucus was the plaintiff, we formed another group known as the Newark Water Coalition. And through that, they are just soaring. So that's what I would say is
Go Anthony.
major. Excuse me?
I said, go Anthony, right?
Yes, exactly. So them, yeah.
There are so many rock stars here. We are way over time, but I could not stop wanting to hear, but I know it is really hard to move from an advocacy agenda to a service agenda and keep everybody focused on the urgency and keeping the urgency of now going on this. But Heather, I know we have questions from the audience and want to make sure if we're going to still try to do that, or how you would.
Yeah, no, we have a couple minutes. I think that this was a really great, really important discussion. I know Felix had raised his hand and has a question or more of a comment, which reads, the hurdle that he has personally witnessed is the fact that the application is not translated. Many people would like to fill out the application in their own language, but English is not their first language. So, you know, identifying it, and Felix, I don't know if you want to unmute and add to that.
Yes, good evening. My name is Felix Mooney. I'm the project manager at St. Joseph's Carpenter Society in Camden. We do lead outreach for Burlington, Camden, Gloucester, and Salem County. Just 2 weeks ago, we did an outreach across the street at a child daycare facility right across the street from our headquarters. And majority of the parents there are not natives to the area. They all basically immigrated in recently within the last year or two. But they're either all renters, and now this program benefits renters. They had about 20 parents there and they were very interested in the program, but immediately were discouraged once they saw the application was in English. And, you know, capacity wise, we can help them, but it takes a lot of time to sit there with one person because all we have is one other staff person to assist with the application. And they also have other responsibilities to be sitting all day with an application. A lot of people say if the application was just in their native language, they would happily fill it out quickly and we can get the process started a little faster.
100%, and it shouldn't just be that we default that Spanish is the only other language, right? And we've got to pay attention.
Oh, there's Creole. I saw in Salem County, there's a big Creole population. There's other languages. It's a very diverse state, as we all know. But, you know, it depends on the program or the department determines whether or not it can be translated. That's what I've encountered too. The Department of Education translates a lot of their documents. So I don't know.
Take some good lessons there. Yvette can help us, I think.
Yeah, but that was that part. And the other thing was, yeah, it's just lead is not, it doesn't affect everyone the same way in each part of the state. You know, number one environmental danger is still lead paint. And, you know, it was outlawed how many decades ago. But when you go to Salem County, all in the southern tip of New Jersey, they're more concerned with lead in their water because of all the chemical plants there from DuPont, et cetera. So you talk about lead paint, they don't want to hear about lead paint. They want to know about the lead in their water. And how can we do to fix that?
And they should read about lead in their soil in that as well.
Yeah, too. Yeah.
One thing I'll just share, this doesn't address the application, but Lead Free New Jersey is working to get more of its resources available in other languages. So just to share that, and hope to be able to do that over the course of this year.
Well, I would really encourage mobile technologies, that apps that can be, I mean, the power of mobile technology is huge. But being able to do text messaging and apps and others related in multiple language really key. Did anybody else want to comment on that before we move on?
This should be a minimal ask from Lead Free New Jersey over to DCA, get it translated. That is not rocket science here.
Yeah. So type of advocacy there. And I appreciate Lead Free New Jersey for doing their material in different languages. I was able to use it at that event I went to, and everybody appreciated that. That really, I guess, empowered them to want to take the next step because they weren't even aware of the dangers of lead. And so they saw, you know, the documentation I gave in their language. So they were happy. They were very happy.
Well, that's good. I'm sure Lead Free New Jersey will continue to ask to have those translations as well. Heather, do we have other questions?
Ruth Ann, it looks like Rosa has a question. She has her hand up.
Hello, Rosa.
Hi, thank you. So I just wanted to say my name is Rosa Sremba and I'm with Community Affairs. And like Felix was saying, we deal a lot with the community, whether it's lead remediation or abatement jobs. And Felix, you should be getting an email from Enrique as he emailed me today, actually, in regards to a translated form of the application, because I see we're having different issues. I am lucky that I have, aside from myself, I have two other staff members, like Vivian Soria, who is the lead manager who speaks Spanish. We have a large Creole speaker, our speaking population in Monmouth County. We have a Bangladesh population down in Atlantic County, and then a mix of Spanish and other languages in Middlesex County. So I do understand the frustration. It does take time to go through everything. And the thing that has helped us with is or putting together and making sure that when we have an outreach event, we have different types of documents, whether it's from other organizations, but having that information and putting it out to the community and making sure that they understand it in the simplest form, because a lot of times if English is not their first language, they don't understand what LED is. And also, if you have, a lot of the times we deal with immigrants who just came over 1 or 2 years ago, and if they didn't finish schooling in their country, then that adds another obstacle, because a lot of times we have to spell out the names of their children and work with them to make sure that we're having the right information. So a lot of times it's cultural sensitive that we have to navigate, as well as providing the tools and the resources. So having the right staff and the right community partners have been definitely helpful. And if anyone has any type of questions, we're always more than welcome to share. I do appreciate hearing that story about the LED and how, you know, because when we tell those stories, those personal stories, it makes such a big impact and such a big difference, especially when we're dealing with pregnant women and children and how much they get affected by it. Being able to also somehow try to pull the school district or the school system into it, because usually a lot of times our community are labeled, you know, oh, he's too distracted, or he's not paying attention, and the underlying problem could be something that you can't see. So having, and I believe there's a title with LED being the deadly poison or something like that, the silent poison. And it's so true, because sometimes you don't see the effects until years later. So I do appreciate all of this. And like I said, if you have any questions or dealing with landlords and things like that, please let me know. I will put my information in the chat.
You must have read my mind, Rosa. I was going to ask you to share your information. Thank you very much. And I think you're referring to the saying around LED as the silent epidemic that is long known. Heather, do we have other questions, or Cassie, other questions?
I think right now, I think we're good. I think we're going to turn it over to Joe T, unless I think, Steve, your question was answered in the chat. I saw Suzanne for that. I'm going to apologize because my internet, of course, just went out during this meeting. So if I seem glitchy, that is why. Yes, we're going to turn it over to Joe T. Venkataraman, who is our collaborative director and director of equity at New Jersey Future. And I know I'm getting your title wrong, Joe T. But
Heather, if I can, I want to thank the panel. How great you were. How great. Thank you. And
thank you.
Yeah. I just got to sit in their sunlight and sunshine. So thank you for that. But thanks the panel. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I didn't want them to hop off without our gratitude.
And thank you, Ruth Ann, so much for moderating. Love seeing you, love working with you and your organization. Just can't thank you enough. Looking forward to all the great work we're going to do together. So Joe T, I'm going to turn it over to you. Actually, I'm going to turn it over to Debbie. I'm saying that wrong. I'm going to turn it over to Debbie and Joe T. But first, Debbie, who's going to talk a little bit about why equity is so important in our work. And my apologies for glitching there for a minute. I'm still trying to recover from the fact that I lost internet during this whole thing. So apologies, Debbie. But if you and Joe T can pick this up for me and discuss probably the most important part of this meeting tonight, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, that sounds stressful. So I'll just be a minute. I'm going to set the table for GOT. We talked about at the beginning of the call, we were going to have some breakout sessions to discuss why equity is important in our work. And we'll be developing best practices to ensure that we're creating space for partners at all levels, as well as elevating our community voices and supporting opportunities for community partners and members in this work. And as part of our plan, as committee chairs, Rashawn and I will be identifying facilitators who can help guide conversations with our backbone staff, our committee chairs, and our hub representatives to incorporate equitable practices at every level. And I know I'm still working on this. I'm still listening and learning. And I definitely know we're not going to achieve our common goals here around the collaborative unless we all feel really empowered and comfortable working in the space. So now we're definitely turning it over to Jyoti to talk a little bit more about this. Thanks.
Thanks, Debbie. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me in this space. I'm truly honored to be part of this membership meeting. So my name is Jyoti Venkatraman. I'm the Director of Collaborations and Organizational Equity at New Jersey Future. I wear a couple of hats, and one of my big hats is working with the teams in New Jersey Future to center equity in our work. So really my task here is just to give some insights into what we mean by these terms: justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Some folks call this JEDI, some folks call this as DEIJ. It really doesn't matter how you want to kind of say JEDI or DEIJ, but these terms have certain meanings. I also want to recognize that we are all learning. So this is a learning space. So as much as I'm going to be sharing how these terms get defined, I invite you to use the chat to share how you understand these terms. What is the definition of diversity, inclusion, justice, and equity that you have come across? So as I share these terms and what they mean, please feel free to use the chat. I invite you to be part of that learning. And I'll ensure I go a bit slower. I just noticed the interpreters requested that. Apologies, English is not my first language. I'll try my best. So I really want to kind of start off with how to understand diversity. One of the ways that I have learned to understand diversity is the recognition that we are all coming with different backgrounds, identities, perspectives. Another neat way to think of diversity is representation. I'm a parent of a young kid who plays with Legos. So think of these as different Lego pieces of different shapes and sizes. So diversity really speaks to the fact that in this virtual space and in our community, we can have people with different experiences, different backgrounds, different identities. And there needs to be a representation of all those aspects. Inclusion goes a bit more further from saying just representation to also having some aspect of belonging, another term that gets often used with inclusion. So inclusion is where we make space and room for all those different perspectives and voices to be heard. And oftentimes inclusion is through policies and practices that can make those that are represented at the various tables, virtual or in person, have voice and are being heard or felt being heard. Equity really moves to recognizing that while we all have different perspectives, identities, and backgrounds, we also face different types of barriers. I valued hearing earlier from one of the participants about certain language barriers that were very unique to that community. So equity is recognizing that the barriers one group of folks face may not be the same that others face. So how do we create systems and policies that can overcome these structural barriers and differences? When we center equity, it's recognizing it can't be, everyone has the same set of barriers. We have to be aware it can be different and then work to remove those barriers. And then finally, justice is often considered like an end goal from equity leading to justice. It's when we dismantle all those barriers. So it's proactively creating policies and procedures and solutions that constantly create equitable outcomes. So we never have those barriers in the first place. I've also heard the term liberation sometimes. Justice, liberation gets kind of used sometimes together, sometimes different. So that's just my quick kind of, here's how I understand the terms, and I hope that ways to understand these terms is helpful and seed some thoughts for all of you. But I do want to invite folks to chime in via the chat if that made sense, or if there were different things that I missed in defining justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion that you feel should be part of this conversation. Please do feel free to add that. I think I'm handing it back to Debbie.
Yes, thank you. So we are going to move into the breakout rooms. I'm sure many of you have done this virtually. And the purpose, we're going to have 3 breakout rooms. And the purpose is to discuss various questions, have a conversation regarding ensuring equity in our collaborative. This gives everyone a chance to have a little more space to discuss. Logistically, we're going to be using a Jamboard in the breakout rooms. This is essentially a virtual bulletin board, and there are little stickies that you can type on to and post up virtually on the Jamboard. If you need assistance with that, there'll be plenty of folks in the breakout room with you that can help with that. Each group will have a different question or focus area, and then after the discussion time is ended, each group will have one person share the breakout conversation in a short report out to the larger group. And what we're asking folks to think about is, what are your greatest needs or concerns? What are your suggestions to improve equity within the collaborative? How can larger organizations better connect and support community-based or grassroots organizations? And thoughts on the next step of a collaborative. So it's a big charge we're giving you. We want to re-emphasize our one of our breakout room will be in Spanish. Cassie, you were going to help me announce to the group again. I know we have interpretation going, but.
Yes, thank you. I would like to give a little bit of instructions before we go into the breakout sessions. One of the breakout sessions will have Spanish interpretation, and that will take place right here in this main session. In a minute, some participants will receive a pop-up asking you to join a breakout room. If you get this pop-up, but you want to have access to the Spanish language translation, please select the white button that says "Not now." This will make sure that you stay in the main session where there is Spanish interpretation. With that, I am going to open up the breakout rooms. And I also put a link to the Jamboards that you'll use for discussion in the chat. All right, there's 12 people in this session, still in the main session, 11 and 12 in the others, so we have a pretty even distribution.
Perfect.
Great. Is there a way, I just want to pull up the Jamboard
And we can share that in the chat.
in the chat.
I can do that for you, Suzanne, if you want to go ahead and. Cassie, could you share, are you able to share your screen on the group 3? What is the best way to do that?
Here, hold on, I'll put it in the chat too.
I can
Hi,
share.
folks. While we're pulling that up, we have, let's see, Anna is here interpreting in Spanish for us. So thank you. So I don't know if you can open the Jamboard. Go to the chat box. You should be able to open that. And the Jamboard is what we'll use to collaborate and give everyone a chance to share their wonderful thoughts and ideas on the question that we're going to discuss. Before we do that, what we'd like to do when we get back to the main room is have somebody from this group volunteer to share back or report back some of the ideas that we come up with in the group. So I'd love to ask now if anybody would be willing to do that. It can be somebody who prefers to do that in Spanish, or it can be somebody who prefers to do that in English. Either way, we'll translate when we get back to the main room, which we're in. So anybody want to throw their hand up and volunteer? Anybody in the mood to get some energy out? Otherwise, we're going to have to call on someone. Anybody feeling in the mood? Okay, well, you can think about it, but we'll get started. Maybe you'll get inspired when you see some of the great ideas. So the question that we'd love to discuss and process together, you'll see it on the Jamboard. If anyone's having trouble opening the Jamboard, just let us know in the chat if you could, and we will help you. But the question in English, the question is, how do we leverage the partnerships or the relationships that we have in our communities to better support and better educate areas of our community that are non-English speaking, right? Or are communities of color. So again, these could be relationships that you have or partnerships you have with other organizations. But what's the best way to leverage these, or to, how can we be better at kind of getting the word out and educating these communities through these relationships? So what you see are, we set up all these pink sticky Post-it notes. Love for you to just take 2 minutes to throw your thoughts, ideas, answers there. To do that, you would just put your hover your mouse over one of the pink stickies and double click, and it will open up. And you can just type your thought into the note, hit save, and it will appear on the slide. And hopefully we'll create a great masterpiece here. So why don't I give you 2 minutes? If anybody wants clarification, feel free to unmute or put it in the chat, whatever works for you. All right, on your mark, get set, go.
Yeah, and you can use the sticky notes that we've already put in here. If you just double click any of those, it should open up for you to edit the note that's already there. Yeah, partners that reach our target audience, definitely. One-on-one conversations with residents. If you're having a hard time filling out a sticky or using the Jamboard, you can put it in the chat and we can write it for you. Or you can just unmute.
Yeah, it's a small group.
It is small.
We can also just have a dialogue, which is great too.
Dialogue.
Anybody, Sherelle, do you feel like sharing some of the ideas that you've been working on down in Trenton to get folks' minds working? Sorry to put you on the spot. See, some folks are taking I think a bio break. There you are.
Hi, Suzanne. Hi, guys. So you just want me to share some of the ideas that
Yeah.
we have going on? So, all right. You have to, we're trying to go to where people are. Once we go to where the influential people are, we form in these relationships with them and then try to get them to invite us to where more of their constituents are, so we can come and bring our stories to them. So forming these relationships, these partnerships allow us to get in the door to tell our stories of what we're trying to do.
Nice. That's a great way to think about it, to go to where folks are. So folks, thank you, Sherelle. Where are, how do we find those places where folks are, or what are some of those places where we know folks are? So one thing that comes to mind for me is schools, right? We know hopefully most children go to schools no matter what language they speak. What are other thoughts around that? How do we meet people where they're at?
I can very briefly offer a suggestion, which is at least from the network's perspective, when we do like crime prevention or community improvement work, like Cheryl was saying, we try to meet them where they are. So often, especially if it's like a niche culture or a niche demographic, that means meeting them at one of their heritage festivals, going to a local concert, or going to one of their farmers markets, and actually just going there even with the intent of not trying to sell them anything or pitch anything, and just being there and being seen. So that when you do try to have that first conversation, it's not like you're just a strange face in a room that they've never seen before. It's like, oh, I've seen that person at our concerts or at like that farmer's market. Yeah, they bought some food. They talked to some of the people, and yeah, just naturally trying to do that without like having a sell as soon as you're walking in the door for these organizations or these demographics or groups.
That's excellent. So go with the intention to build a relationship, not sell. And even if you are there to somehow sell something, go with the idea that building the relationship will eventually lead you to the sell, but also be of service. Thanks, Kelvin. Anyone else? Walter, how about in Newark? How do you meet people where they're at? Especially people who speak different languages or.
So I think that, and I'm trying to think back to before Newark Water Coalition, we mostly really just got into a strong habit of having a lot of boots on the ground and just knocking on doors, which is probably some of the most tedious, time-consuming, and sometimes even like costly sort of endeavors. But we've done it for multiple reasons. So other than that, I think that really just creating sort of like a base of dialogue, like whether that be newsletters or just forums that we've had, or just constantly trying to keep a dialogue alive between community members where ideas are being thrown back and forth. I think that's always been the best sort of like way of getting any information out, or getting access to people. And then, initially what I thought is, wouldn't it be great to just have enough money to just use some type of like, even if it's not the biggest like media, but like some type of like mass media. Just thinking about this anchor program thing today, because it's the last day, and it's like sort of like the one thing we've been trying to get out the most, which is mostly about housing. But like, it would be cool if someone had enough money to just, say something on the radio, or,
Yeah. Doesn't have to be a dream. Let's make it a reality. One thing that we're doing in Trenton, right, Sherelle, is we're going to be launching some billboards and see how those do. So that when you're taking your kid to school, you see that billboard every day, twice a day maybe, or you're driving in the car to the supermarket, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe that's along the lines, Walter, of what you're sharing.
Definitely, yeah.
That's
billboards.
And
are
Walter, maybe you could help
good.
share out for us because we're going to be going back to bring everyone back in a minute. Would you mind sharing out a couple of our sticky notes on here, doing a 1-minute checkout?
Mhm.
That'd be great. All right.
Oh, I just wanted to say, Walter, find out who your local radio station is and contact them and then get on their station. Doesn't cost you a thing.
Yeah, I mean, so luckily we've had some community members. We've had like local radio. We've done even like some other like guerrilla tactics where we like place like Bluetooth beacons that'll like text you stuff just by walking by. We had like some people from WVGO sometimes announce things, but I was thinking just like, Z100 or, just super mass media. But I mean, it is just a fleeting thought, but yeah, definitely it's important to partner with local media that's accessible.
And I did try to capture some of what everyone was saying in the notes too. So if I missed something, please add it.
Are we all back?
Yeah, I think we're coming back.
I think we're all back.
Rashawn, I think you are going to lead this and maybe just do a quick debrief with each group, like 1-minute checkout of just what the question was and what some of the responses were.
Got it. Welcome back, everyone. What I'll do is I'll read out the 3 questions that were presented, and I'll go group by group and give everyone, every group lead the opportunity to kind of communicate out what was a common theme during your discussion. So I'll start with the first question. How do we center equity in our work and/or organizations? What feedback have you received regarding equity needs or concerns? And for this question, I'll call on Unique Smith. She was in our group, so I'll task Unique with providing some common themes that were taken from that discussion there.
Yes, we definitely needed more time. This is a very necessary and significant conversation. Some of the things that we mentioned, Deandra actually had said that we need to be cognizant of how we go forth with the practice of equitable policy. A lot of the times our delivery may not mimic the intent behind why we want these policies in place. Another thing that was mentioned, being clear and communicating as well. There's a lot of gaps in areas for misinterpretation when really trying to identify who the policies serve. Another actually personal note that I added to the conversation is empowering people of color to lead, right? Not simply just for us to be at the table, but be a voice at the table. I know Yvette had mentioned in the last conversation on the panel that a lot of people feel that they may not have the knowledge or the information needed to feel qualified to be in certain spaces. And so how do we partake in encouraging people of color to lead and to lead effectively? So those are just some of the points that we discussed in our conversation.
Thank you for that, Unique. Now we'll move on to group 2. I'll read the question out, and the group 2 lead, please feel free to share once I conclude reading the question. So how can larger established grassroots partners elevate and expand the work of grassroots groups and members? And someone from group 2, please feel free to share a common theme from your discussion there.
I think I've been allocated to share that. Yvette, is that correct?
I thought we were group 3, but okay.
We might be group 3.
Did you guys have the blue sticky?
Yeah, we're group 2.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, well, here we go. Group 2 folks, if I leave anything out, please feel free to add. But I think some topics that came out of it were sort of larger organizations sharing in their social media efforts that grassroots organizations are doing. There was a lot of mentioning of just really listening to grassroots organizations and what they're doing and what their needs are, sort of helping uplift grassroots leaders and helping grassroots organizations figure out how to like move up in their efforts. And then a lot about capacity building, just in terms of like training and sharing resources and things like that. I think those were kind of some of the main things. I'm trying to just very quickly review the stickies, but group 2, did I leave anything out?
No, I
think
don't
you
think.
cover it all.
Great.
Okay, and for group 3, I'll read this question quickly. How do we leverage partnerships to support and educate areas that are non-English speaking and or communities of color?
So we discussed a couple of different strategies or just past previous experiences, mostly focusing on how to better target just or meet the communities where they are. So that would mean go to festivals and actually like attend them, festivals, local concerts, farmers markets, and just building relationships, having the intention of building a relationship and not just having a sell for them. And that could also go to in terms of like community events as well, where you would go and share information directly. We spoke a little bit about canvassing and some of the efforts that are actually going on as well with the use of media, mass media in particular in Trenton, where they'll be putting up some billboards, which is awesome. So that's important. And just discussing, we had just some more discussions on how to better use media, whether that be like local radio, billboards, like I mentioned, social media newsletters.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good
stuff. That's it, Walter. Thank you for sharing so much. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to report out some common themes that I took from you all. I was taking notes here. The one common theme that stood out within all of the groups is empowerment. I think that's something that you all referenced in a different way. Starting with Unique referencing empowering people of color to be in leadership positions as we think about advancing equity. Another common theme that I took away from this was communication, whether that's through social media marketing or through on the ground marketing, canvassing. So communication and empowerment seems to be 2 key themes that I took away from this. And those themes directly correlate with what we all do here as a state collaborative and what we want to continue to push forward. And empowerment is the key, right? And all of you focused on empowering the communities and putting the communities out front. So I think that's really important for us to all be able to keep that in mind. And it seems we're all on the same wavelength in terms of how we think moving this work forward is best. And that's through empowerment and clearer communications. So thank you all. Those are just some themes I took from what you all shared and my thoughts, but I'm sure that you all probably have additional thoughts as well. And with that being said, I'm gonna turn it over to Heather to close it out.
Wow, really powerful. And I thank all of you for being part of that breakout group, and discussing this really important topic. As we shared, we're really looking to make sure that we're incorporating best practices on equity at every level within the Lead-Free New Jersey Collaborative, and look forward to working with everyone on making sure that that can happen. I want to make sure that everyone here is aware that we do have a Lead-Free New Jersey newsletter. I want to also make sure that you are signed up to become a Lead-Free New Jersey member, whether as an organization or an individual, because your voice is really important in our work. And to share your lead story if you have one. You can reach Suzanne Atman, our community organizer liaison, for assistance with that story, and her email is in the chat. I also want to make sure to reiterate that if you do need compensation for attending today, that you need to send that request to me by end of day on Friday, this Friday, at my email address, which will be put in the chat, along with your home address, because that would be a mailed check. It's only available through the mail. And note that you have to be a first-time attendee, have attended the entire meeting, and actively participated in the meeting to receive the stipend. Finally, just want to make sure to share our backbone staff emails of myself, Suzanne, and Cassie. So you can reach out to us if you have any additional questions, thoughts, concerns. We love working with each and every one of you, and look forward to our continued partnerships. So we thank you for choosing to be here with us this evening till 7 o'clock at night. And a big thank you again to our panelists, our moderator, Ruth Ann Norton, our translators, Sarah, Anna, Walter. Thank you so much for being able to, expand the reach of our audience. And thank you so much to our support staff who work really hard to bring this all together. So thank you and good night.
Hi, Heather.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Corinne?
I'm good.
Good. I'm so happy you were here. Thank you so much.
Learned a lot.
I learned something every day. There's so much to learn, in this work, and we're grateful for you and your partnership in Trenton, and it's great. So we need to catch up and have some coffee soon.
All right, take care. I'm gonna hop on to another Zoom.
Thank you. Oh my.
All
Thank you.
right, bye-bye.
Corinne. All right.